Well, Deeptika Laurent joins me for a look through the papers now. Hi, Deepti.
Hi, Olivia.
You're starting with Egypt, where the government has cracked down on a protest against President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi.
That's right. 1,400 people have been detained since Friday's protests, according to the website Middle East Eye. And a worrying number of prominent critics have been detained, including Hazem Hosni, the spokesman of the former army chief of staff, who was arrested after posting critical comments about the president on social media. The former army chief himself has been detained since January 2018 after he announced plans to stand against President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in presidential elections. Other arrests including a former supporter who backed the recent protests and former opposition party spokesman. Now, 6 years after coming to power, al-Sisi is creating the same conditions that fueled the first wave of the Arab Spring uprising in 2011. That's this point of view from Middle East Eye. And for the past 3 weeks, his image has been trashed because basically these protests have stemmed from allegations by a whistleblower called Mohammed Ali, who's now in exile in Spain. He posted videos on YouTube telling Egyptians that al-Sisi was lecturing them about tightening their belts. At the same time, he was building lavish palaces for his wife. This scandal all the more damaging because those protesting are the very people who brought al-Sisi into power in 2013.
And speaking of the Arab Spring uprising, that also spread to Libya in 2011, and 8 years after Muammar Gaddafi was killed, the country is still at a political impasse.
That's right, and hundreds of people continue to be killed in fighting. The situation there is very complex. You basically have two parallel governments, each claiming to govern the country. General Khalifa Haftar, the leader of the Benghazi-based Libyan National Army, and the forces loyal to Fayez al-Sarraj, the internationally recognized government in Tripoli. In fact, Libya has been a hot topic at the UN summit in New York as the country faces a host of problems, including, we know this one, mass migration, a worsening humanitarian situation, and that internal political conflict. French paper Libération actually dedicated 4 pages to the conflict today. They're really taking stock of the situation. And basically the situation is that Libya is in a political quagmire with no real hope of breaking the deadlock right now.
And staying with the French media, a lot of papers here today in France are focused on a new report from a UN body on climate change.
That's right, and it's making a lot of the front pages, Le Figaro, Libération, and Le Monde today. The UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change really we keep saying sounding the alarm, but this was really almost, calling the death knock, if you like, on the state of our oceans and icebergs in particular. But, this report was about the future. You don't even need to wait that long. You can see it happening already, and that's what the Daily Beast is looking at, reporting that Italy and France are now preparing for the imminent collapse of the Mont Blanc glacier due to the devastating effects of climate change. In particular, a really extremely hot summer and then warm rains that have basically made the glacier fragile. The Italian city of Comayer is actually evacuating residents because they found these new cracks in the ice. The glacier straddles France, Switzerland, and Italy, and is in a region that is expected to host the 2026 Winter Olympics. So if ever you needed a reason a reminder of what climate change is doing, well, there you have it.
That's a very dramatic example, that one. Now, moving to Canada, that country is heading to elections next month, and one candidate, Elizabeth May, has been caught in a bit of an embarrassing Photoshop fail.
That's right. She says her party did this without her knowledge. She's the head of the Greens party, and the party is admitted to doctoring a photograph of her holding what was initially a disposable paper cup. They changed it to show her holding a reusable plastic cup and metal straw. She's the head of the Greens party. They wanted to preach what they practice, I guess. But for this columnist at National Post, a Canadian paper, it's a, quote, hilarious encapsulation of the unavoidable hypocrisy of climate change-focused politicians. The writer pointing out that she didn't even really need to doctor the photo in the first case because the original showed her with an environmentally friendly cup, and it just shows how confusing things are right now. And there's a really nice message from the writer here who says, you're not a hypocrite if you're worried about climate change, but you do enjoy modern conveniences.
Okay. Well, finally, we've got a new exhibition here coming to France from a very particular, let's say, museum in Sweden.
That's right. The Swedish museum is known as the world's disgusting food museum. And some of the articles from that museum are coming to France, to the French city of Nantes, for a special exhibition on food of today and tomorrow. Among those on display, Olivia, aged shark, fly-infested cheese, the durian, which is the smelliest fruit in the world, and roasted guinea pig from Peru, which you see here. The idea being to question our notions of what's edible and what's not edible, and why certain things that seem disgusting to us can be appealing to others. And what better place than France, you know, the land of frogs' legs and smelly cheese and escargots and pigs' intestines.
I can't say that looks very appetizing. I'd definitely rather go for a smelly cheese. Thank you very much for that roundup of the papers, Deepti. Well, you can catch that press review and past editions online. That's all on our website, france24.com. Do check it out.